Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 26th Chapter, The Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, Text 46. Bhavanam, brahmanah, sthanam, dharanam, sad-visesanam, sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah, prthivi-vrtti-laksanam, bhavanam brahmanah sthanam, dharanam sad-visesanam, sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah, sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah, prthivi-vrtti-laksanam, bhavanam brahmanah sthanam, dharanam sad-visesanam, sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah, prthivi-vrtti-laksanam, bhavanam brahmanah sthanam, dharanam sad-visesanam, sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah, prthivi-vrtti-laksanam. Bhavanam, modeling forms. Brahmanah, of the Supreme Brahman. Sthanam, constructing place of residence. Dharanam, containing substances. Sad-visesanam, distinguishing the open space. Sarva, all. Sattva, of existence. Guna, qualities. Udbhedah, the place for manifestation. Prthivi, the earth. Vritti, of the function. Lakshanam, the characteristics. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. Please repeat. The characteristics of the function of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Different elements such as sound, sky, air, fire and water can be perceived in the earth. Another feature of the earth, especially mentioned here, is that earth can manifest different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this statement of Kapila's, it is confirmed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, has innumerable forms which are described in the scriptures. By manipulation of earth and its products such as stone, wood and jewels, these forms of the Supreme Lord can be present before our eyes. When a form of Lord Krsna or Lord Visnu is manifested by presentation of a statue made of earth, it is not imaginary. The earth gives shape to the Lord's form as described in the scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita, there is the description of Lord Krishna's land, the variegatedness of the spiritual abode, and the forms of the Lord playing a flute with his spiritual body. All these forms are described in the scriptures, and when they are thus presented, they become worshipable. They are not imaginary, as the Mayavadi philosophy say. Sometimes the word bhavana is misrepresented as imagination. But bhavana does not mean imagination. It means giving actual shape to the description of the Vedic literature. Earth is the ultimate transformation of all living entities and their respective modes of material nature. Bhavanam brahmanah sthanam dharanam sad-visesanam sarva-sattva-gunodbhedah prthivi-vrtti-laksanam. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. So, what is Kapil Dev describing here? The fundamental principles of material nature. And while describing these fundamental principles of the material nature, here he is describing how the different manifestations are transformed from the principal element of Mahat Tattva, or even prior to that is Brahman. Ether, sound, then from that form, fire, air, not form, fire, air, touch, form, fire, taste, water, and earth, and smell, and then earth. So it is becoming more and more condensed. We can consider this way as if the ether is condensed into air. Then air is condensed into fire. Fire is condensed into water. And water is condensed into earth. We can see also that the earth or solid substance under some temperature and pressure, under certain temperature and pressure, they become liquid. Like below zero, it is ice. And when the temperature rises above zero, then it becomes water. And then above the same water, above 100, is vapor. So in this way we are seeing that how elements are condensed ultimately into the earth or hard form, solid form. Earth actually here means solid substance. Then state before that is liquid. State before that is fiery. State before that is airy. And state ultimately is ethereal. And it has been also described that the qualities of the previous state is there in the proceeding state. Like the qualities of ether is there in air. The qualities of ether and air is there in fire. The quality of ether, air and fire is in water. And quality of ether, air, fire, water is in earth. So that's why it is saying that the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. All the other elements are resting on earth. Because in earth, all the qualities, or you can say all the substances, are there. And previously, in the previous verse, we described how the smell is the product of earth. With olfactory senses, earth produces smell. Punna-gandha prthivi-vrtti-laksanam. Punna-gandha prthivi-vrtti-laksanam. The earth, the smell of earth. Krishna is saying, Prabhashmi shashishujaya. I am the Prabha, I am the light of the sun and moon. So this gandha is coming from earth. And so in this way, Kapila Devi is very systematically giving the description of the material manifestation. This chapter you have been studying for last how many days? 40, almost 1 month you are studying. This is a very interesting chapter. Kapila Devi is so nicely describing. He described 24 different considerations. Who remembers them? Okay, tell me. What is the 24 consideration?
5 elements like earth, water, fire, air and that, and 5 working senses, 5 knowledge apparent senses, and then mind, intelligence and false ego.
You got 18 and 19. Where are the other 5?
5 objects of the senses.
Okay, then what is the 25th consideration?
Time
factor. Now what is the time factor? What is the description? All these are considered the qualified Brahman. The mixing elements, which is known as time, is counted as the 25th element. Text 15. Then influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor. The influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. So this is how we can see that the Lord is manifest His presence in the form of time. Then also, the Lord is present as the super soul in the elements. तुम लोग जब क्लास में आते हो इतना लेट क्यों आते हो? लेट आने का ज़रूरत क्या है? अगर नहीं आते हो तो भी अच्छा है. लेट क्यों आते हो क्लास में? क्लास जब खत्म होने वाला है तब आने की क्या ज़रूरत है? Then he is saying, by exhibiting his potencies, the Supreme Personality of Godhead adjusts all these different elements, keeping himself within as the super soul and without as time. So externally he is as the time, and internally he is the super soul. After the Supreme Personality of Godhead impregnates material nature with his internal potency, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya. The sum total of the cosmic intelligence is known as Hiranmaya. Hiranmaya means gold, golden. This takes place in the material nature when she is agitated by the destination of the conditioned souls. So in one word it can be said that all the conditioned souls come in as that Hiranmaya, Hiranyagarbha. Therefore it's... And so without the living entities, can the material nature become manifest? No. So the cause of the material nature's manifestation is the living entities. By the Lord's arrangement, the living entities are coming into the material nature. And by coming into the material nature, they are causing the material nature to become manifest. In one hand, the transformations are taking place, and on the other hand, the living entities are coming. It is happening simultaneously, or is a result of one of resulting into the other. Living entities are coming, and because of the living entities, these transformations are taking place. How is the transformations are taking place? Once again, like from Brahman, Mahatattva, and gradually the elements and the senses are evolving. Senses are evolving according to the state of the condition, destiny of the conditioned soul. Meaning, the different conditioned souls, different living entities are getting different types of bodies. Different living entities are getting different types of bodies. Different types of bodies have different types of senses. And accordingly, they are perceiving. Like some living entities don't have eyes. Do they see? No. Those who don't have eyes, although fire is there, form is there, they don't experience. Some living entities do not have mouth. Mouth practically every living entity. No, some living entities don't even have mouth. Like the trees. Trees don't have mouth. Then how do they eat? They eat from their roots. The roots are like the feet. Therefore, another name of trees is Padapa. Padapa. They eat from their feet. So trees are like, they don't have eyes, they don't have ears, they don't have mouth, and they don't have nostrils. All they have is skin. There is some sensation they feel. They have some sensation. And what is that sensation? The sensation is the heat and light. Sensation is the heat. Therefore we find the trees are going towards the sun. Why? Because the light is giving the heat and they are going towards the heat. There are some living entities, they don't have uh, ears. Some living entities don't have, like generally, living entities, the animals, especially animals, uh, they don't have, they have practically animals and birds, they have five, and human beings. Human form is the perfect form. All five senses are perfectly active. In others, they may have five senses, but all those senses are not so active, but one sense is very acute. Like with some animals, like dogs, their olfactory organ, smell organ is very active, very active. Therefore, we have dogs for sniffing. They detect. You smell the dog, the handkerchief of a person, and the dog will go and find the person. Their senses are so acute. So, some animals have their eyes very acute, like vultures, like some birds, some eagles. They can see from a long distance, like they have telescopic eyes. They're flying high up in the sky and they can see an insect in the ground. And they sweep down and take the insect. So in this way, different living entities have, although they may have five senses, but like for example, for snakes, the sound, they're very sensitive to sound. Snakes don't have ears. They touch, through the touch they actually feel. That, or with the sound. That sound they experience with their skin. But with the human beings, all five senses are fully active. That's why human life is so precious. So the point is that the living entities are projected into the material nature. And at the same time, the material nature is going through the transformation due to the glance of the Lord. And it is transforming air, ether, air, fire, water, earth. And this is how, what is happening? The karma kshetra, the field of activity for the living entities are being created. Why the living entities are projected into the material nature? So that they can act according to their will, according to their desire. And they become subjected to their karmic reactions. Okay, you can act according to your desire, but you will be subjected to karmic reactions. If you act in a right way, you will be rewarded. If you act in a wrong way, you will be punished. What is the punishment? The punishment is torture or agony, physical and mental agony. You do something wrong, and what happens? You are subjected to punishment. And how does the punishment? Sometimes the punishment comes in the form of physical difficulty. Sometimes somebody is put into the prison and there he is beaten up. That's the punishment. So similarly, we in the material nature also we have to see that sometimes we undergo different types of difficulties. It's actually punishment. In the prison house, the prisoners get beaten up by the prison staff. But sometimes some people come and beat us up. Doesn't it happen? Somebody gets beaten. Like what do we have to understand? That is the result of our wrong action. Sometimes we get punished, not getting any food. Sometimes we are punished, not getting any water. The people in the desert are punished in that way. Just for water, they have to struggle so hard. Their water is so valuable that they kill each other for water. So these are the physical punishments, and sometimes there are mental punishment, mental suffering. The mind goes through so much anxiety. So actually, the point is, this material nature is the place of suffering. We get a little relief from that suffering. We are not actually enjoying happiness. We are getting a little relief from our suffering condition. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, that point has been described as Danda jane raja joiche nodite chubai. Do you know are you familiar with this condition? The saying, the king punishes, sometimes the king punishes a person by drowning him in the water. And then he is allowed to take a breath, just one breath or two breaths. And then again he is drowned in the water, dunked in the water. How will you feel when you are kept in the water? Can you imagine how you are going to feel? You'll be dying to get a fresh breath of fresh air. And he allows you to take a little breath, and then again. So our condition in the material nature is just like that. Happiness is when we are able to take a little breath. But then again we are pushed into the water. Now why the king is punishing? The king is punishing us so that we realize our mistake. The punishment is there. So what is the mistake? The mistake is we have rejected Krishna. Because we have rejected Krishna, therefore we are suffering. Now, how to rectify that situation? To rectify the situation is to accept Krishna. By rejecting Krishna is causing us suffer. And what is the meaning of rejecting Krishna? That is the main point here, which Kapila will describe afterwards. What is the consideration? What is the meaning of rejecting Krishna? Rejecting Krishna means we feel that we are the doer. We are the controller. We are the enjoyer. So when we think that we are the doer, we are the proprietor, we are the controller, we are the enjoyer, that is the meaning of rejection of Krishna. Because we are not depending upon Krishna. We are thinking that we will do everything. So now how do we rectify that situation? If we understand that this is the problem, then how do we rectify that situation? The rectifying the situation is very simple also. I am thinking I am the doer, but let us just recognize who is the doer, who is the actual controller, and who is the actual enjoyer, and who is the actual proprietor. I am thinking I am that, but actually Krishna is that. So recognize that fact. Krishna is the doer. Yes, I am thinking I am doing, but even actually it is not me that I am doing. It is Krishna who is doing. Here in the material nature, he is doing it through the agency of Maya. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. In the material nature, everything is happening by the guna and karma. The arrangement of guna and karma. Gunai karmani sarvasha. Now how is it? Gunai karmani sarvasha. The example that is given, Srila Prabhupada gave the example of the puppets being danced. Puppets are dancing. Now, how does a puppet dance? Can the puppet dance? Puppet is just a puppet, just a doll. Does it have any ability to do anything? Move? But there is a puppeteer. Have you seen the puppeteer making the puppets dance? The puppets' different limbs are tied with a string with the fingers of the puppet. Or sometimes they have a stick and the things are tied on a stick and they just arrange that. Actually, it seems that the puppet is dancing. But it is the puppeteer who is making. So similarly, who are the puppeteers here? By Krishna's arrangement, the demigods are the puppeteers. They are making the arrangements. And there is the gunas. The gunas are the strings. The modes of the material nature, in this case, is the string. And there is another factor. The puppeteer is not making the puppets dance. Puppets like human beings dance according to his will. He is not imposing his will. Here, the living entities, the conditioned souls, are generating that condition through their karma. Guna, karma. A living entity is acting according to them in different modes, and as a result of that, different reactions are generated. Karmic reactions are generated, and he is getting the result. Some results are in mode of goodness, some results are in the mode of passion, some results are in the mode of ignorance. And what are the results? Sattang, mode of goodness, causes happiness, sukham, sanjayati. And Rajagun is causing what? The mode of passion is causing suffering. You act in a mode of passion, you will suffer. And action in a mode of ignorance is causing bewildernment and sleep. Moha, nidra, alasya, laziness, inactivity. So this is how the living conditioned souls in the material nature are being subjected to act in a certain way. And due to his false ego, ahankara vimuratma, kartaham iti manvate. Being bewildered by his false ego, he is thinking that he is the doer. Therefore, the real knowledge is to recognize that condition and rectify that situation. Is it a desirable situation? Is it a desirable situation to be in such a condition? Like yesterday, somebody was just telling me that one of the Ambanis, Anil Ambanis or Mukesh Ambani, one of the Ambani, they are generating 60 lakhs rupees every second. They are making 60 lakhs rupees every second. But the poor guy is working 20 hours a day and he cannot sleep. He is in so much anxiety. Like people are thinking, oh, 60 lakhs rupees he's making in every second. Anyway, I don't know whether the figure was correct. And he just mentioned it to me. But the point is, he's making a lot of money. But what is his condition? His mind is in acute anxiety. Now, is he enjoying or he is suffering? We can consider ourselves, before we came to Krishna consciousness, what was our condition? Were we in anxiety or were we in a peaceful state of mind? And that anxiety, after coming to Krishna consciousness, the anxiety disappeared. Didn't it? Why? Because we have taken shelter of Krishna, because we are not thinking that we are the doers, our anxiety has been reduced. And the more we surrender to Krishna, the more our anxiety will reduce. More we surrender to Krishna, the more we will become free from anxiety and the more we will enjoy bliss, ananda. So that is the ultimate point that Bhagavatam is leading us to. Nirodha muktir ashraya. What is ashraya? Ashraya means shelter. And who is that shelter? Krishna is the shelter. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the shelter of everyone. And if we take shelter of Him, now in order to take shelter, what do we have to do? We have to surrender. Taking shelter means surrendering to Him. So that is the key to spiritual enjoyment. You surrender to Krishna and you will become free from anxiety. It may not happen overnight, it may not happen immediately. We may think, well, I have surrendered to Krishna, why I have so many anxiety. I have to pay my telephone bill, I have to pay for my house, I have to pay for my... and I have so much debts in the market. So anxiety is there. But this anxiety is called conditioning. Because we have been conditioned, we are not able to surrender to Krishna fully. We still have a tendency to control. And therefore, we are experiencing this anxiety. But if we surrender to Krishna completely, no more anxiety. When we surrender to Krishna, then what we immediately see? After all, He is taking care of us. Does a bird have any anxiety? I'm sure they have anxiety. But compared to us, it has less anxiety. A bird doesn't have to think, oh, where I'll get the money from to pay for my nest. Where shall I get the money from to buy the food from the supermarket? Where shall I get the money from to fly in the sky? A bird doesn't have to depend upon all these things. These things have been created by man. And these things are the source of anxiety. Man's arrangement is the source of anxiety. And the more they are making the arrangement, the more they are causing anxiety. There was a time when people used to think, oh, I'll be so happy to get a car. I'll be so happy if I can have my own house. And now, men have made the arrangement, very easily you can get a car. Very easily you can get a house. You can get a house, their bank is coming and telling you that, look, you're paying 3,000 rupees a month for your rent. So you pay 4,000 rupees a month and you'll get your own house and you pay for 20 years. And you think, well, that's true. Like, I have to pay the rent and I can pay only 1,000 rupees more and I can get the house. And all I have to do is I have to put 5 lakhs as the initial deposit, down payment. And then every month I'll pay for 20 years. And as it is for 20 years, I paid the rent for 5 years already. So, and I didn't get any result. But if I do this, then I will. But then you lose your job. You don't have any, you've already paid the bank for 15 years. It's only 5 years left and you lose your job. You can't pay any money to the bank. You can't pay the money to the bank for 2 months and bank comes and takes your house. And not only that, you have your anxiety all the time. Oh, how can I pay the money? If I can't pay the money, then I lose everything. Actually, recently there has been a financial crunch about 3 years back, and that means there was the financial system that has been arranged that collapsed in America. And so many people lost everything. They became pauper. They became beggars in the street. Probably you heard, one Indian family, the husband, wife, and the husband killed his wife, killed his children and shoot himself. Because he couldn't tolerate, this became so painful, so difficult for him. He killed himself with his family. But if he thought, well, I could go to Hare Krishna temple and get prasad. I don't have to worry about food. And if I became a devotee, then they would have taken care of me. Or they could have thought that, well, I still have some resources. I can go back to India and live there with my family. Although I may not be able to live in the luxury that I have got in America, but in India I can live quite easily without any difficulty. So the point is, all these difficulties, all these anxieties have been caused by man. Or the arrangement that the man has made is causing all this anxiety. The food, there is no dearth of food. Does a bird ever starve for food? Did you ever see a bird starving? Did you ever see an elephant starving? You know how much food does an elephant need? 300 kilos. Okay, you got the figure right. I used to think it was 100 kilos. An elephant needs 300 kilos of food. How much food do you need? Gaurvani? Gaurvani doesn't need much food. He fasts I heard he fasted for the Bhishma Panchak, 5 days. So, whatever little food that we need is there. Krishna is given. There were some people who would not even beg, some brahmanas, like Chanakya Pandit. He would not even beg. You know, also, Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri did not beg. Whatever food came to him, he accepted it. There are people like that. Many people lived like that in India. And they don't even go and beg food. They don't even ask anyone for food. They don't have any money to buy the food. And they were, how they used to live? Like Chanakya Pandit, there's an occupation called Uncha-vritti. Uncha-vritti means you collect the grains that is there lying in the field after the harvesting. After the rice or wheat has been cut, some grains are lying in the field. They collect that and they survive on that. Or the fruits that fell from the tree. They wouldn't pick the fruit from the tree. The fruit that fell from the tree, they will take that fruit. So, what to speak of the food that Krishna has given? Actually, every year the world produces food that it can feed the population of the world at least twice, if not 3 times. So much food is wasted. Like in America and in Australia, they burned wheat or dunked them in the ocean because there is excess. So this is how Krishna's world is full of abundance. In Krishna's world there is no scarcity. In Krishna's world there is abundance. But what is causing the scarcity? Man produces the food and keeps it in his store, godown. And he says that unless you pay me money, I am not going to give it to you. So now you have to go there to get the food for money. It is Krishna's food, it's not that man's food. He's claiming that it's his food, but it's actually Krishna's food. And Krishna has given that food for everybody. So this is how man is creating the problems in the structure of the society. In the name of civilization, human beings are causing so many problems. Like there is a saying that Krishna made the perfect situation. But as soon as a man puts his fingerprint on this, everything is ruined. You know how it is? Like, one classic example is, we are taking oxygen and we are giving out carbon dioxide. And the trees are taking the carbon dioxide and giving us the oxygen back. Who made this arrangement? Krishna made this arrangement. And what is man doing? In the name of civilization? Cutting the trees. They're cutting the trees, so they're actually exhausting the source of oxygen. Then what they're doing? They're burning those trees. And when you burn the tree, then what happens? The atmosphere is filled with carbon dioxide. And then they're pumping out the garbage of the earth in the form of oil. And they're burning that. And they're filling up the atmosphere with carbon dioxide. The life for us is oxygen. But and opposite to oxygen is actually carbon dioxide. That is, carbon dioxide is death. And they're filling up the atmosphere not with life, but with death. In this way we have to see that Krishna made the perfect arrangement and we must surrender to that arrangement. That is what Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the entire Vedic literatures are reminding us. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Just surrender to Krishna and your life will become perfect. And if you have any anxiety still, if you cannot surrender, you pray to Krishna. The prayers is the means to depend upon Krishna. When you pray, what do you pray? Krishna, please. Like there is a very common prayer of the Christians. God, give us our daily bread. So give us our daily bread. Like Prabhupada used to say, we never pray like that. Because you'd have scarcity of bread, that's why you're praying for bread. Good, pray to God. You're depending upon Him. At least you're depending upon Him for your bread. You're recognizing that He has given you the bread. Therefore our prayer is, Krishna bada dayamai, koribare ju bhajai, shaprashad anna dilapai. Krishna did not give us the bread, He gave us Shop Prasad, His own Prasad. Shei Annam Mritapao Radha Krishna. Now that you're seeing that Krishna is giving you everything, sing His glory. Radha Krishna Gunodbhedah. So that is the perfection of our existence. Depend upon Krishna and be thankful to Krishna for everything that you are getting from Him. Don't think, I have got this. Recognize that Krishna has given me this. And you can see how much Krishna is giving you. In Krishna's world there is no scarcity. There is everything in abundance. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Does anybody have any question?
What is the difference between Hiranmaya, Mahatattva and Pradhan?
Hiranmaya is the sum total of the living entities that come into the material nature. Mahatattva and Pradhan is the same, just same substance. From one perception it is Pradhan, from another Mahatattva.
The demigods are puppeteer, but they are also under the modes of material nature.
They are not really under the, they are under the modes of material nature, but they are the agents of the Lord. Krishna appointed them. But since they are in the material nature, they are also affected by the modes of material nature. But they are predominantly in the mode of goodness and some mode of passion.
Guru Maharaj mentioned how everything is happening in the natural world, so ultimately it's under Krishna's control, but it's happening to your nature, to your nature. There's an example, Bhaktivedanta says, example gives, he says, just like the potter, the machine, basically everything happens through nature, but without the pot maker, nothing, the pot is not formed. So similarly in the material nature, things are happening, but ultimately under the Supreme Brahman.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay. Yes.
Why we say that in a childhood, child suffer from some incurable disease. So, what should be the reason for that as in references to karma and dharma?
Was the child there before also? Is the soul of the child, did he appear only in the child's birth or he was there before? So we have to understand in his previous life he has done something, and as a result of that he is suffering in this body. You see, this life is not everything. This life is a result of previous lives. That we got this kind of body, that we got into this kind of situation, is a result of our previous actions. So if we are enjoying in this life, it's a result of our previous action. If we are suffering in this life, it's a result of our previous action. But the point is, the freedom from that situation is available, is possible, just by surrendering to Krishna. That's why what happened in the past doesn't matter. What really matters is whether I'm going to surrender to Krishna now. Now that I have that opportunity, let me surrender to Krishna. And if I surrender to Krishna, then I'll be free from all karmic reactions. No more karma. And no more karma means no more suffering. And that's why Krishna is saying, aham tvang sarva-papebhyo. Suffering is a result of pap. So no more pap. That means no more suffering. Hare Krishna. Yes.
My question is about yesterday's lecture.
Yeah.
And I heard you saying that in order to get free from material things, we do not have to go to material direction, but to go to spiritual direction, right?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And I'd like to check if I understood correctly. So does it mean that, for example, if I have 10 pairs of shoes and I'm very attached to these 10 pairs of shoes, that I don't have to, with force, cut my attachment, but instead of put more energy and attention to chanting and reading and stuff like this attachment goes away, for instance, or...
You see, I don't remember what I said yesterday. But what I actually meant is, what I intended to say probably, is that the material activities are when it is self-centered. When it's for me, it is material. When it is for Krishna, it is spiritual. That's the difference. The action can be same, the objects can be same, but if we say, for example, as you said, like you have 10 pairs of shoes, and then you feel that, well, I only need 2 pairs of shoes. And these 2 pairs of shoes also I need to go to the temple. Now I have this extra 8 pairs of shoes. Now there is a devotee whose shoes are worn out. So let me give my shoes to the devotees. Right? So this is how you are spiritualizing the activity. You are using the shoes to go to the temple. Right? And you are using the shoes to serve the devotees. And in this way you spiritualize your activity. Hare Krishna. Yes, you also had a question from yesterday.
Sometimes we see that devotees are in deep anxiety and they fight with each other. If they are completely surrendering unto Krishna, then why it happens?
Because they are in Maya.
They are not surrendering.
Yeah. If they surrender to Krishna, they wouldn't fight. If they surrender to Krishna, then they'll accept every situation as Krishna's mercy. Why did you get the Mahaprasad? Why didn't I get? I start fighting with you. Right? That's mine. Although it's Mahaprasad. But if I think that Krishna wants you to have the Mahaprasad today, and Krishna doesn't want me to have the Mahaprasad today, so that's why I accept it as Krishna's mercy, and there is no need to fight. At the most I can go and tell you, hey, will you give me some? Will you give me some Mahaprasad? And you generously give it to me, so then you are happy, I am happy. Okay, thank you. Okay.
But in this case, like when Parvati did not get the Mahaprasad of Lord Narayana and Lord Shiva got, and she complained, like she became angry and so they were in Maya or
She didn't fight, she was crying. And she went, because with Mahaprasad you can do like that. Actually she asked Lord Shiva, you didn't keep any Mahaprasad for me? And Lord Shiva said, look, I just got a little. There was no way I could. And then she didn't fight, but she get hurt and she wanted to have Mahaprasad. So this way we have to understand that these are the pastimes of exalted devotees. They are acting as a part of Lord's pastimes.
As you know that when you take initiation at the time spiritual master, he takes all the karmas part of the business, so then still we have to suffer.
Spiritual master takes the karma to the extent you surrender to him. So if you are 100% surrendered, then all the karmas will go away and you won't have any suffering or any anxiety. And another consideration is, you see, the suffering that is there, we have to understand that as long as we have this body, certain conditions of the material nature will be there. But a devotee doesn't become affected by that. The suffering is there, but the suffering doesn't touch the devotee. And in this respect, Prabhupada is giving the example of a fan that was moving and you switched it off. Does the fan stop immediately? Yes, you can stop the fan immediately if you just touch it. If you hold it, it will stop. But generally, it keeps on moving and moving and moving, and then it comes to a standstill.